So it's time to talk about the situation with Fortnite where they have an AI voice for Darth Vader. To preface this, I am slightly biased as I don't like AI stuff. I just don't. I think it has a place for like computers and whatnot, using it for grammar, using it for spelling, for translations, cool. Using it for medical stuff, being able to find things that the human eye can't notice, great. Stuff like that, where it will be used for mostly like statistical stuff or for finding things that humans can't. I think it has a place in the world and it has a reason to exist. However, I personally, I don't like it creatively. I don't like AI music. I don't like AI art. I really dislike AI taking over certain mediums and whatnot, and I think that that almost always is a bad thing. I know some people are very one side or the other, and then there's people in the middle who think that it has a spot, but it shouldn't be in certain places, whatever. I am not a big AI fan. I'm not into it. If you are, cool. I don't care. But to get it out of the way, I am biased and I dislike AI. So if I seem in any way hyper analytical towards the situation at hand, that's why. Now let's get into it. The current season of Fortnite is all about Star Wars, which is neat, cool, whatever. I don't care. Darth Vader is there, and you are able to have a conversation with him and an AI voice. EA and LucasArts. Well, LucasArts doesn't exist anymore. Disney, EA, all them. They have permission from James and his family to use his voice in the future as a way of infinitely using his voice without him being around, and a way to continue his vocalization of Darth Vader even though he is not here. Rest in peace to him and all hopes and prayers to his family. However, I don't necessarily. I still think it's very weird. Even with his permission and with his family's permission, I still think it's incredibly weird to take somebody who is no longer alive and use their voice for projects. Similarly to how whenever the Flash movie came out, there was a lot of weird stuff with AI in that I didn't like, and the internet also didn't like. However, I am aware that he gave permission for them to use his voice and to use AI to replicate it, and because of that, it's kind of a touchy subject because they have his permission. So it's like, how much can you actually hate them doing it? So let's get into the issues that arose from it just being in the game. To begin, the game that is rated E for everyone, and people are allowed to play it if they're a child. He said a bunch of swear words. The ones that I've seen were fuck, shit, hell, and damn, which aren't too bad. But he also said slurs. People have been able to trick it into saying slurs. It has said a couple racial slurs. I heard the F slur said. Said retard a couple times. It called somebody a monkey, I believe. There was a bunch of stuff of him saying things that are very out of pocket, like responding to stuff about school shootings in a way that wasn't really helpful. Just straight telling people like, yeah, you want to kill yourself? That's crazy. The Force can't fix that one, Chief. And some other problematic statements, alongside just being really fucked. And, like, the game for kids, starring the characters that are owned by Disney, saying slurs and curse words and stuff. I don't know about that. I don't know about them saying slurs. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, so there's that part of it. And then let's get to the meat and potatoes right quick. Let's just get it. So the real lore of this situation is SAG-AFTRA, which if you don't know, they're a pretty big deal in like workers' rights and all that sort of stuff. And they now have a statement on Fortnite's use of AI Darth Vader's voice and the ULP filing. This is their following statement. We celebrate the right of our members and their estates to control the use of their digital replicas and welcome the use of new technologies to allow new generations to share in the enjoyment of those legacies and renowned roles. However, we must protect our right to bargain terms and conditions around uses of voice that replace the work of our members, including those who previously did the work of matching Darth Vader's iconic rhythm and tone in video games. Fortnite's signatory company, Llama Productions, chose to replace the work of human performers with AI technology. Unfortunately, they did so without providing any notice of their intent to do this and without bargaining with us over appropriate terms. As such, we have filed an unfair labor practice charge with the NLRB against Llama Productions. A copy of the filing can be read, and then they have it linked. SAG represents like 150,000 actors and like broadcasters and whatnot, just a bunch of creatives, and they are kind of like the people when it comes to. One moment. They are like the go-to people for workers' rights and unionization, and like when the writers' strikes were happening a couple years ago, that's what it was. When actor strikes were happening, that was them. They are very much at the forefront of taking care of creatives, pushing creatives in the right direction, making sure that things are fair for them, and stuff like that. So them filing like a genuine court hearing and whatnot against Llama Productions, the people who have Fortnite and stuff, and I guess Epic would kind of be part of that, but not really, because they're just kind of they are like, I'm trying to think of it, like if Marvel goes to court, Disney is there, but Marvel is the one in court. Llama Productions is in court. Epic is kind of there. But long story short, they're in some trouble. And whether you are a fan of the AI stuff or not, it's becoming such a big deal that people are getting in trouble legally for it. And I feel like that's going to continue. One moment. I feel as though the legal repercussions of using AI for stuff is going to continue. I feel like, creatively speaking, there's going to be a lot of things similar to this. People who have passed being used, using people's voices without their permission. Using people voices, that's not what I meant. Using people's voices without their permission is already a fairly big deal. For example, if you are a voice actor and you do one episode of a cartoon and you have a couple lines or whatever, if they go and reuse your lines like 2 seasons down the road, they have to reimburse you again. You're not paid for the one time. It's if you show up again, they have to pay you again. Like, typically, not always. Some contracts will vary, but typically, that's how that works. Or if you are in Spider-Man 1, and then they do a flashback to Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 5, that's still a use of you. And some contracts vary, but typically, that's another payment. And through AI, you can use somebody's voice without actually paying them or even having them record, which currently hasn't caused a whole lot of legal action, but most likely will. Like, let's say theoretically, somebody uses like AI audio of Bruce Campbell for an Evil Dead thing. Bruce Campbell wasn't there, he didn't record, so they don't have to pay him. However, they did use his likeness, his intellectual property, his voice, and that will probably lead to a court hearing. And I expect that to happen a lot in the future, the next couple years. This is the first really big version of it. I would say that The Flash with Superman also was a big deal, but it kind of just went under the radar afterwards because there was a lot of other issues with that film and other issues with actors in it and whatnot. Whereas here, it's entirely a thing on James's voice, his estate, EA, Fortnite, and then all the people who were not cool with it, including SAG. So, I don't know where that's going. We'll have to see in the coming weeks, days, months, whatever it ends up being. Currently, let me double check this info. As of me recording this, which is May 20th at 9:30 a.m., He is still in the game. You can still do this. I believe they have started working on making it where he can't say swears and slurs and stuff. However, he is still in the game and it hasn't been taken out or anything. So, we'll see where that goes. We'll see if they get into any more trouble. We'll see if they do any other AI stuff. I don't really know. What I do know is that I expect a lot more legal activity to be happening through AI stuff, especially with like deepfakes and whatnot of genuine people. I think that's going to cause a lot of legal problems. And considering all of that, I don't know what EA, Disney, Fortnite, Epic, Llama Productions, all the groups, how it's going to go with them versus SAG. Especially with them not communicating with SAG and not talking to them and figuring out what the rules were. And I think that's the issue. Like, legally speaking, that's the problem. Is James signed up for all that stuff. He, like, gave permission. In SAG, if you give permission, they can't say that you're not allowed to be used. However, there are rules, there are regulations, there are questions, there's a million things that they have to, that this group of like EA and Disney and all that, they have to go through SAG. They have to get permission for all this stuff. They didn't. And that's the problem legally. Legally speaking, using the AI isn't illegal. James gave permission. The issue is that they didn't go through the regulations. They didn't ask. They didn't get permission. They just did it. So we will see where that goes. For now, that's all I've got. Stay safe, everybody. I love you. Give me your thoughts on AI in general, your thoughts on the Darth Vader situation, your thoughts on SAG and what their regulations are, and any other thoughts you have about it. That's about all. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.